I was just about to open the door when I heard my wife's voice inside. Her tone was low, trembling. "But I'm dying," she said softly. "I don't even know how to tell him." My hand froze on the doorknob. For a moment, the whole house went quiet. Even the ticking wall clock seemed to stop. I leaned closer, my heart beating fast. "He's been acting so cold lately," she continued, her voice breaking. "And the last thing I want is his pity." Her friend sighed. "But you have to tell him," she said gently. My wife's reply came out like a whisper from another world. "Tell him what exactly? That I have cancer? That the doctor said I have just a few months to live?" The room spun around me. I couldn't breathe. My wife? Dying? I stood there for what felt like hours, until I finally found the strength to open the door. Her friend looked startled when she saw me. She muttered something, picked up her bag and left quickly. My wife turned to me and smiled weakly, pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't. Nothing was fine anymore. That night, as she served me dinner, I couldn't stop staring at her. She had grown thin. Her cheeks looked hollow. Her hair, dull. She looked like a woman who had already said goodbye to life. And right there, I made a vow. If she was truly dying, then I would be the husband she deserved before she left this world. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there beside her, staring into the darkness. Every breath she took felt fragile, like a candle flame that could go out at any time. And my heart burned with guilt, because deep down, I knew the truth. I had stopped loving her, stopped caring, stopped seeing her as my wife. There was another woman. Her name was Linda. Younger, louder, full of life. She made me feel wanted again, or so I thought. For months, I had been planning to leave my wife. The divorce papers were already drafted. I was just waiting for the right moment. But now, how could I give her divorce papers when she was dying? How could I abandon her when her body was already failing her? My chest tightened. Tears gathered in my eyes. Right there, I made a promise, one that came straight from my soul. I would end my affair with Linda. I would destroy the divorce papers. I would stand by my wife to her last breath. For however much time she had left, I would be there. When morning came, I found her in the kitchen washing plates. Her hands trembled slightly from weakness. I walked up to her and gently took the sponge from her hand. "I'll do it," I said. She looked surprised. "No, it's fine," she whispered, but I insisted. For the first time in a long time, she smiled at me. That night, I held her hand in bed. She hesitated at first, but slowly she let me. I didn't know how to say "I'm sorry," so I let my silence speak. And in that quiet darkness, I made another vow. I would love her again, not out of pity, but out of repentance. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was still dark and quiet. For the first time in years, I went into the kitchen. Not to shout, not to complain, but to cook. The smell of fried eggs filled the air. The sound of boiling water echoed softly. When she walked in and saw me standing there with breakfast on the table, her mouth fell open. You made this?" she asked. I smiled awkwardly. "Yes, eat before it gets cold." She sat down slowly, watching me like she was seeing a stranger. Her eyes softened, and when she smiled, it reached her heart. From that day, I changed. I drove her to work. I picked her up in the evening. I told her she looked beautiful, even when her eyes were tired and her skin pale. At night, I held her close. I stopped scrolling on my phone, stopped ignoring her, stopped being distant. Every moment with her felt like a countdown. Every laugh, every touch, every breath, I cherished them like they were the last. Linda called over and over again. I ignored her. When she showed up at my office, I told her it was over. She got angry. She said I was making the biggest mistake of my life. But I didn't care, because for the first time in a long time, my heart was at peace. My wife began to glow again. Her laughter filled the house. The shadows under her eyes began to fade. We went shopping. We visited the beach. We watched movies together, holding hands like teenagers. It felt like the old days had come back, like life had given us a second chance. And every time I looked at her, I whispered a silent prayer. Please, God, let her stay a little longer. Weeks passed, and every morning my wife's laughter woke me up before the alarm. It was music to my ears, soft, full of life. She had started eating better, dressing brighter, talking more. Her cheeks no longer looked hollow. Her steps carried light again. Sometimes I would just sit and watch her move around the kitchen, humming to herself, and I would think, maybe the doctors were wrong. Maybe she was healing. Maybe love itself was the medicine she needed. But then, one evening, the whisper returned. Her friend came over again, the same friend from that first day. I was in the sitting room, pretending to scroll through my phone, when I heard them. Their voices were low, secretive, like before. Have you practiced your lines? Her friend asked. Yes, but I can't cry the way the scene needs me to. You know, the part when she finds out she's dying. My stomach turned. My eyes widened. There it was again, that word, dying. My heart began to race. Was it back? Was the sickness spreading faster? They kept talking and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Every word they said was like a knife twisting deeper. Then her friend laughed softly. You do great at the presentation. Just remember your emotion is the key. Presentation? I frowned. What presentation? Before I could think more, they changed the topic and started talking about food. I sat there pretending to smile when they came out, but inside, I was trembling again. Was my wife hiding something worse this time? Something even she couldn't say out loud? That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning in circles. Love had healed her once, but was it enough to keep her alive?
That evening, the sky was heavy with rain. Thunder rolled softly in the distance as the first drops began to fall. My wife was in the bedroom, dressing up. Her friend had come again. I was in the living room, pretending to watch television, but my mind wasn't there. I wanted to ask. I wanted to know what this presentation was about, so I listened. Their voices floated out softly through the half-closed door. Don't forget the doctor's scene, her friend reminded her. That's the one that will touch everyone's heart. Yes, my wife replied, her tone suddenly full of sorrow. I'll say, but I'm dying, just like that. My heart skipped. Those same words, the same whisper I had heard that day behind the door. I moved closer, quietly. Their laughter drifted out softly. You are really good at this, her friend said. I almost cried the first time you rehearsed it. Then it hit me. The truth struck like lightning. They weren't talking about real sickness. They were rehearsing for a drama presentation at work. My knees felt weak. I sat down slowly, staring into nothing. All this time, all the sleepless nights, the guilt, the tears, the promises, everything. All because I thought my wife was dying. But she wasn't. She was alive, perfectly alive. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or fall on my knees and thank God for this second chance that misunderstanding had given me. Because in trying to save her life, I had saved my marriage. That night, I didn't speak. I just sat alone on the edge of the bed, watching her sleep. Her face was peaceful, her breathing soft. The woman I thought was dying was only acting. And yet, that single misunderstanding had done something no prayer, no fight, no counselor could do. It had brought me back to her. I remembered how cold our home had been before that day. Two strangers living under one roof pretending to be husband and wife. But in those few weeks when I thought she was fading away, I saw her again. Not as the woman who nagged or argued, but as the woman who once held my hands and said, "Forever." Sometimes it takes the shadow of loss to remind us of what truly matters. I realized something that night. Love doesn't die a sudden death. It fades quietly, through neglect, through silence, through small daily acts of indifference. I had been killing my marriage without even knowing it, and it took the fear of losing her to open my eyes. So I thank God, not for the lie, but for the lesson that came with it. Because if she hadn't whispered those words, I would never have remembered how to love her again. The next morning, I woke up with a light heart. The sky outside was bright, and the world felt new again. When my wife opened her eyes, she smiled sleepily. I smiled back, really smiled, for the first time in a long while. She didn't know I had found out. She didn't know her little drama had changed my whole life. So, I played along. I made her breakfast. We ate together, laughing like we used to when our love was still young and careless. I took her out that evening, no special reason. We just walked, hand in hand, through the quiet streets with the soft wind brushing against our faces. We talked about everything, the things we missed, the silly arguments we had, the dreams we had left behind. And for the first time in years, it felt easy, like home, like love was breathing again. At one point, she turned to me and said, "You've changed, you know." I looked at her and smiled. Maybe I just remembered what I almost lost. She didn't understand what I meant, but that was fine, because I did. From that day, I stopped counting the wrongs between us. I stopped waiting for her to change. Instead, I changed myself. And slowly, gently, our love grew back like grass after a storm. Not rushed, not perfect, but real. It was truly our second beginning. Years have passed since that evening, but I still remember it clearly. The whisper behind the door, the fear that froze my heart, and the lesson that changed my life forever. She never knew I heard her that day. She never knew I thought she was dying, and I never told her. Some secrets Abeka left buried, especially when they grow into blessings. Because if I had told her the truth, she might have laughed, or felt guilty, or wondered if my love had returned only out of pity. But this way, our love stayed pure. It grew without question. She still thinks I changed on my own. And maybe, in a way, she's right. Because I did change. Not because she was dying, but because I finally realized how fragile love can be. Sometimes, you don't need death to lose someone. All it takes is neglect. So now, every time I see her laugh, every time she reaches for my hand, I whisper a prayer in my heart. Thank you, Lord, for the lie that brought me truth. And that, my friend, is the story of the wife who whispered. Sometimes, we don't realize what truly matters until we think we might lose it. Appreciate, act, and love before it's almost too late.